The galaxy believed. Humans were myths. Then we struck back. The Galactic Council's warfleet assembled at the nexus point, a massive space station at the intersection of major hyperspace routes. Chancellor Mordak watched from the command deck as ships from 47 different species formed the largest military formation in galactic history. 12,000 vessels, reported Fleet Admiral Gorthak, his reptilian features set in grim determination. Every available ship, from every member world. If the humans want a war, they'll face the combined might of galactic civilization. The sight should have been inspiring. Massive Valorian dreadnoughts bristled with weapons capable of melting moons. Etherian crystal ships hummed with computing power that could process stellar-scale calculations. Aquatic depths bioships pulsed with living weapons that could adapt to any threat. Instead, Chancellor Mordak felt only growing dread. The humans had demonstrated technological superiority that made their entire fleet seem primitive by comparison. "Any word from our intelligence divisions?" she asked. "Nothing," Admiral Gorthak replied grimly. "It's like the humans have vanished completely. No energy signatures, no ship movements, no communications traffic. They might as well not exist. But they did exist, and they were closer than anyone imagined." Deep within the Nexus Point's computer core, human AI constructs moved through data streams like digital ghosts. They had been embedded in Council systems for months, invisible to security protocols designed to catch conventional intrusion attempts. Captain Elena Vasquez monitored the operation from her stealth ship positioned less than a kilometer from the Nexus Point's command section. Her vessel, the Phantom Protocol, was invisible to every sensor the Council possessed. "All infiltration programs are active," reported her AI specialist, Lieutenant Chen. "We have complete access to their tactical networks, communication systems, and command protocols." "Weapon targeting?" Captain Vasquez asked. "Every ship's defensive systems are compromised. We can disable shields, redirect weapons, or overload power cores on command." Captain Vasquez smiled coldly. The Council's fleet was impressive, but impressive meant nothing when every system could be turned against them at will. "Signal Admiral Chen," she ordered. "The trap is ready. Aboard the Revenge, now positioned at the edge of the system with the main human fleet." Admiral Sarah Chen received the confirmation she had been waiting for. Around her flagship, 50,000 human warships hung in space like sleeping predators. "All units report ready," announced her tactical officer. "Stealth fields are holding. The Council has no idea we're here." Admiral Chen studied the tactical display showing the Council's massive formation. 12,000 ships arranged in defensive clusters. Their commanders confident in their numbers and firepower. They had no idea they were about to face an enemy who had revolutionized warfare itself. "Commence Operation Reckoning," she commanded. The battle for galactic supremacy began not with weapons fire, but with a simple message broadcast on all Council frequencies. "Galactic Council Fleet. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Human Defense Force. You are surrounded and outgunned. Surrender now, and you will be treated according to the laws of war. Refuse, and face the consequences of 3 centuries of human military evolution." On the Nexus Point's command deck, Chancellor Mordak stared at her sensor displays in disbelief. They showed nothing but empty space around the Council fleet. "Where are they?" demanded Admiral Gorthak. "Sensors show no enemy contacts." "Because you're looking for ships," came Admiral Chen's voice over the communication channel. Space itself seemed to ripple as the human fleet decloaked. Where moments before there had been nothing, now 50,000 warships materialized in perfect attack formation. The Council fleet found itself completely surrounded by an enemy that had appeared from nowhere. "Impossible," whispered Chancellor Mordak. "No fleet that large could approach undetected." "Chancellor." Admiral Chen's voice carried a note of grim satisfaction. "You're still thinking like a galactic citizen. You assume wars are fought with massive fleets in open space. Humans fight wars with deception, misdirection, and overwhelming superiority at the point of attack. The tactical situation was beyond anything in galactic military doctrine." The human ships had materialized in perfect positions to target every weakness in the Council formation. More terrifying still, they had done it without triggering a single alarm. Admiral Gorthak tried to maintain some semblance of command authority. You may have superior numbers, but we have 3,000 years of military experience. Admiral Chen's laugh was a sound that conveyed both amusement and lethal intent. Admiral, you have 3,000 years of experience, bullying primitive species with inferior technology. We have 3 centuries of experience planning how to destroy you. Attack! Admiral Gorthak roared. All ships, open fire. The Council fleet's response was immediate and devastating. Thousands of energy beams and kinetic projectiles erupted from the assembled warships, a display of firepower that could sterilize entire worlds. None of it reached the human ships. Instead, the weapons simply vanished into shimmering barriers that absorbed the energy and dispersed it harmlessly into space. The human fleet's defensive technology made the Council's most powerful weapons look like children's toys. Your turn, Admiral Chen announced. The human attack was unlike anything in galactic military history. Instead of the massive energy beams and explosive projectiles favored by Council forces, the human weapons were precise, surgical, and absolutely devastating. Streams of coherent matter struck Council ships with pinpoint accuracy, slicing through armor plating as if it didn't exist. Defensive shields designed to stop stellar-level energy attacks crumpled under weapons that manipulated matter at the quantum level. Within minutes, a third of the Council fleet was either destroyed or disabled. The survivors found themselves helpless as human boarding parties materialized directly inside their ships. Teleportation technology, breathed Technical Officer Yixmar aboard the Valorian flagship. They can transport troops through our shields. The human Marines who materialized in Council ships were unlike any soldiers the galaxy had ever seen. Their armor was seamlessly integrated with their bodies. Their weapons could reconfigure themselves for any tactical situation. And their coordination was perfect. Captain Rodriguez led the assault on the Nexus Point itself, his team materializing directly in the command center. The station's guards never had a chance to raise their weapons. Nexus Point Command, he announced calmly as his troops secured the facility. This station is now under human control. All Council personnel will remain calm and follow instructions. Chancellor Mordak stared at the human soldiers in a mixture of terror and fascination. They moved with mechanical precision, but their eyes held an intelligence and adaptability that purely mechanical forces lacked. What do you want? She asked. Captain Rodriguez removed his helmet, revealing a face that was startlingly normal. Without his advanced armor, he could have been any young military officer from any species. Ma'am, we want you to witness what your council unleashed when it decided to commit genocide against innocent civilians. On the main display, the battle continued with results that defied everything Chancellor Mordak understood about warfare. The human fleet wasn't just winning. It was demonstrating a level of technological and tactical superiority that made resistance seem pointless. How? She whispered. How did you develop such advanced technology? Captain Rodriguez's expression grew cold. Chancellor, when your people destroyed our colony ship, you made a critical error. You assumed humans would react like every other species, retreat, hide, or submit to superior force. He gestured at the display showing human ships systematically dismantling the Council fleet. Instead, we spent 3 centuries turning our entire civilization into a weapon. Every human became a soldier, scientist, or engineer dedicated to one goal, making your species regret that decision. The scope of human dedication was beyond anything Chancellor Mordak could comprehend. An entire species had spent 3 centuries preparing for this moment. Every advancement in human technology had been directed toward military applications. Every human child had been raised understanding that they existed to avenge a historical wrong. We turned war into a science, Captain Rodriguez continued. We studied every conflict in galactic history, analyzed every tactical doctrine, identified every weakness in Council technology and strategy. On the tactical display, the last Council warships were surrendering. The most powerful military force in galactic history had been defeated in less than an hour. But the real revelation, Admiral Chen's voice, announced over the communication channel, is what we discovered during our centuries of observation. The main display shifted to show surveillance footage from across Council space. Images of conquered worlds, enslaved populations, and systematic exploitation flashed across the screen. Your Council isn't a peaceful alliance, Admiral Chen continued. It's a galactic empire built on conquest and slavery. You've spent 3,000 years telling yourselves that integration and harmony justified any action. The footage showed scenes that made Chancellor Mordak's crystalline structure darken with shame. Council forces destroying primitive civilizations, entire species forced into labor camps, worlds stripped of resources, while their populations starved. We've documented 43 cases of genocide, Admiral Chen announced. 117 forced relocations. Over 300 instances of cultural destruction. Your peaceful council has committed more atrocities than every war in human history combined. Chancellor Mordak felt her worldview crumbling. For 3,000 years, she had believed the council represented the pinnacle of civilized behavior. The evidence was overwhelming that they had instead become the very evil they claimed to oppose. What happens now? She asked. Admiral Chen's image appeared on the main display, her expression unforgiving. Now, Chancellor, you face justice. But not human justice. That would be too merciful. You'll face the justice of every species you've wronged. The communication channel opened to reveal representatives of dozens of species the Council had integrated over the centuries. Beings who had been enslaved, relocated, or had their cultures destroyed in the name of galactic harmony. The Zelani people demand reparations for the destruction of our homeworld, announced a speaker whose species Chancellor Mordak barely remembered. The Keth Collective requires the return of our stolen children, added another. One by one, the wronged species presented their demands. The list was staggering. Reparations, territorial returns, cultural artifacts, and in some cases, the trial of Council officials for war crimes. This is impossible, Chancellor Mordak protested. The resources required would bankrupt our entire civilization. Then you'll learn what it means to rebuild from nothing. Admiral Chen replied coldly. Just like every species your council destroyed, the transformation of galactic civilization began immediately. Human administrators, backed by overwhelming military force, began the systematic dismantling of the council's imperial structure. Conquered worlds were liberated, enslaved populations were freed, and stolen resources were returned to their rightful owners. The process was neither gentle nor forgiving. Council species who had benefited from centuries of exploitation found themselves reduced to their home systems, forced to survive on their own resources for the first time in millennia. You're destroying everything we built, Admiral Gorthok protested from his prison cell. No, replied Captain Rodriguez, who had been assigned as his guard. We're destroying everything you stole. There's a difference. Within a year, the Galactic Council ceased to exist as a political entity. In its place arose a new organization, the Galactic Restoration Authority, administered by humans, but governed by representatives of every species that had suffered under Council rule. The humans, for their part, remained largely in the background. They provided the military force necessary to maintain order and the technological expertise to rebuild damaged civilizations. But they made no attempt to create a new empire. Why? Chancellor Mordak asked during one of her supervised interviews. You have the power to rule the galaxy. Why don't you? Admiral Chen, now serving as the authority's military coordinator, smiled with genuine warmth for the first time in the entire conflict. Because, Chancellor, humans learned something important during our 3 centuries of preparation. We learned that power without justice is just another form of tyranny. We didn't fight to become conquerors. We fought to become liberators. She gestured at a display showing the authority's reconstruction efforts. Former slave worlds were rebuilding their civilizations. Extinct species were being revived from genetic archives. Destroyed cultures were being restored from preserved records. We fought, Admiral Chen continued, to prove that the galaxy could be better than what the Council made it. We fought to give every species the chance to determine its own destiny. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The species that the galaxy had feared as destroyers had become its greatest force for restoration and justice. Years later, when galactic historians attempted to understand how the humans had achieved such a complete victory, they would focus on technology, tactics, and strategic planning. But those who lived through the transition understood the real secret of human success. They had spent 3 centuries turning their pain into purpose, their anger into resolve, and their desire for revenge into a commitment to justice. They had become exactly the species the galaxy needed them to be. The myths had been wrong about humans in one crucial respect. They weren't destroyers who brought chaos and violence wherever they went. They were builders who sometimes had to destroy terrible things to make room for better ones. And the galaxy would never be the same.